Let me ask you something most men never stop to consider. Why do some men walk into a room and the energy shifts? Why do some men speak and people listen? Why do some men move through business, relationships, and life with calm certainty, while others constantly chase validation, approval, and scraps of opportunity? It's not luck, it's not genetics, and it's not noise. It's advantage, and advantage is built, not inherited, not begged for. Not granted by society, built through discipline, built through positioning, built through financial intelligence, built through emotional control. Most men are told to just be yourself. But what if yourself is undisciplined, financially unstable, emotionally reactive, directionless? The world does not reward potential, it rewards value, and value must be engineered. Right now, somewhere in your city, there is a man who wakes up earlier than you, who trains when you hesitate, who invests how others spend, who studies social dynamics while others scroll. Who thinks in decades while others think in weekends. 10 years from now, his life will look lucky. But it wasn't luck, it was construction. Here's the truth most won't say out loud. If you need validation, you surrender power. If you need immediate pleasure, you sacrifice long-term wealth. If you tolerate disrespect, you train people how to treat you. If you depend on one income source, one person, one outcome, you are vulnerable. Vulnerability without awareness becomes weakness. But discipline turns vulnerability into leverage. The male advantage is not about domination. It is about sovereignty. It is about becoming so financially grounded, so emotionally stable, so physically disciplined, and so strategically positioned that you are no longer negotiating from desperation. You are choosing your work, choosing your circle, choosing your partner, choosing your environment. Choice is power, and power belongs to prepared men. This is not about ego. It is about structure, because the man who controls his impulses controls his finances. The man who controls his finances controls his options. The man with options controls his destiny. Over the next hour, we are going to dismantle weakness. We are going to rebuild your thinking around status, wealth, emotional resilience, and long-term legacy. You will learn why silence can be stronger than shouting, why walking away increases value, why patience multiplies wealth, why peace is a weapon, and why the ultimate male advantage is not conquering others, it is conquering yourself. The question is simple. Will you continue chasing attention, or will you begin constructing advantage? Your next decade depends on that answer. We begin here, not with anger, not with blame, not with resentment toward the world, but with truth. Because most men today are confused. Confused about power, confused about attraction, confused about success, confused about why some men seem to move through life with leverage while others feel invisible. And I'm going to tell you something most people are too afraid to say clearly. The world does not reward potential. It rewards advantage. And it is built, not wished for, not demanded, not granted, built. Let me take you back for a moment. Imagine a young man in his early 20s. He believes what he was told growing up. Work hard, be nice, be agreeable, and everything will fall into place. He studies, he tries, he sacrifices. But when he looks around, he sees something unsettling. The loudest man in the room commands attention. The most decisive man closes the deal. The most confident man attracts the woman. The most financially disciplined man walks away with options. And suddenly he begins to question the script he was given. Here is where most men make a mistake. They turn outward. They blame the system. They blame women. They blame society. They blame luck. But advantage never begins outward. It begins inward. The first lesson of male advantage is this. Power begins with self-control. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your outcomes. If your anger dictates your decisions, you lose leverage. If your desire dictates your focus, you lose discipline. If your insecurity dictates your behavior, you lose respect. And respect is currency. Let me give you a principle that applies in every arena. Relationships, business, negotiation, leadership. The one who needs less controls more. If you need validation, you surrender power. If you need approval, you surrender authority. If you need immediate pleasure, you surrender long-term gain. But if you are centered, disciplined, emotionally regulated, you operate from strength. Most men chase attraction before building value. That is backwards. Attraction is a byproduct of value. And value is built through three pillars: competence, Confidence, capital. Competence means you can solve problems. Confidence means you trust yourself under pressure. Capital means you have economic leverage. Without competence, confidence is arrogance. Without confidence, competence is invisible. Without capital, both are fragile. Let's talk about capital, because this is where advantage becomes measurable. Financial freedom is not about showing off. It is about optionality. When you can walk away from a job, you negotiate differently. When you can walk away from a bad deal, you negotiate differently. When you are not desperate for income, you operate calmly. Desperation leaks. Women sense it. Employers sense it. Business partners sense it. Scarcity energy repels advantage. Abundance mindset begins with financial discipline. Here is a simple law: spend less than you earn, invest the difference. Build assets that pay you. Avoid liabilities that impress others but enslave you. Most men sabotage themselves chasing status symbols instead of building status foundations. The car can wait. The watch can wait. The external image can wait, but skill acquisition cannot wait. Invest in skills that increase income. Sales, negotiation, communication, technology, leadership. Your income is proportional to the problems you can solve. Solve bigger problems, earn bigger rewards. This is not ideology. This is economics. Now let's speak about masculinity in its pure form. Masculinity is not aggression. It is direction. A man without direction becomes reactive. He scrolls. He consumes. He chases dopamine. He drifts. Drifting men have no advantage. Directed men build momentum. Set physical goals. Set financial goals. Set relational standards. Standards are powerful. If you tolerate disrespect, you train others to disrespect you. If you tolerate mediocrity in yourself, you reinforce weakness. Raise your standards. Train your body. Strength signals discipline. Discipline signals stability. Discipline signals stability. Stability signals security, attracts trust. Trust builds influence. Influence builds opportunity. Opportunity builds wealth. This is the chain. Now let me give you a quote I live by. A man becomes powerful the moment he becomes accountable. Blame keeps you weak. Accountability makes you dangerous in the best possible way. When you say, my results are my responsibility, you regain control. You stop waiting. You start building. Let's talk about social dynamics. Men who understand hierarchy navigate rooms differently. They observe before they speak. They listen before they assert. They calculate before they commit. Not from fear, from awareness. Awareness is advantage. If you enter every room trying to prove yourself, you signal insecurity. If you enter grounded and measured, you signal confidence. Silence is often stronger than noise. Controlled presence outperforms desperate performance. And here is something few men realize. Women are not attracted to neediness. They are attracted to stability and direction. If your life lacks purpose, no relationship will fix it. If your finances are unstable, romance becomes stress. If your emotions are chaotic, attraction fades. Build yourself first, not out of bitterness, out of wisdom. Let me tell you a truth about dating that applies equally to business. The man with options negotiates from strength. Options come from value. Value comes from investment in self. So instead of asking, how do I get her to choose me? Ask, how do I become the man who is difficult to replace? That question changes everything. And here's where advantage compounds. When you master your body, your finances, your communication, and your emotions, you stop competing for scraps. You operate in a different tier. But it begins small. Wake up earlier. Train consistently. Track your spending. Read daily. Practice social courage. Cut low-value habits. Small disciplines compound, just like money. Invest $10 a day consistently, and it grows. Invest 1% improvement daily, and it transforms you. Most men want transformation without routine. That is fantasy. Routine builds resilience. Resilience builds reputation. Reputation builds leverage, and leverage is advantage. Now let's address something uncomfortable. Comfort is the silent killer of male growth. Comfort keeps you average. Comfort keeps you distracted. Comfort keeps you entertained. Discomfort builds edge. E.g. builds distinction, distinction builds demand, and demand gives you choice. Choice is power. If you can choose your work, your partner, your environment, you are free. Financial freedom is not luxury, it is freedom from coercion. It is the ability to say no, no to disrespect, no to exploitation, no to mediocrity. But that freedom requires sacrifice early. You will work when others relax. You will save when others spend, you will train when others indulge, you will study when others scroll, and 10 years later, the gap will be undeniable. Let me leave you with this thought for now. The male advantage is not about domination. It is about self-mastery. It is about becoming so stable, so competent, so financially grounded, and so emotionally controlled that chaos does not move you. Because the man who cannot be moved cannot be manipulated, and the man who cannot be manipulated becomes powerful. This is only the beginning. In the next part, we go deeper into status building, social intelligence, strategic attraction, and how to design a life where you are not chasing validation but commanding respect. We continue, because what we are building here is not ego, it is leverage. And leverage begins where most men refuse to look, at status. Now understand something clearly. Status is not arrogance. Status is positioning. And whether you acknowledge it or not, every social environment operates on invisible hierarchies. In business, in friendships, in dating. Yeah. In leadership circles, the question is not whether hierarchy exists. The question is whether you understand it. Most men attempt to climb hierarchy through noise. They speak loudly. They over-explain. They flex prematurely. They signal importance. But true status is signaled subtly. The highest value man in the room rarely needs to announce himself. He speaks when necessary. He listens strategically. He asks precise questions. He maintains posture. Physically and emotionally, posture matters. Your body speaks before you do. Slouched shoulders communicate defeat. Avoidant eye contact signals insecurity. Rapid speech suggests anxiety. Slow movements, steady eye contact, calm breathing. These are dominance cues. Not aggressive dominance, but controlled dominance. Control is attractive. Control builds trust. Trust creates influence. And influence compounds into opportunity. Let me give you a principle that will change how you move socially. Attention flows to certainty. If you are uncertain about your worth, others will mirror that uncertainty. If you are certain, not arrogant, but internally anchored, people respond. Certainty comes from preparation. Preparation comes from discipline. Discipline builds identity. Identity creates presence. Now let's talk about social intelligence. There are men who work hard but remain invisible. There are men who are competent but overlooked. Why? Because competence without visibility is wasted. You must understand rooms, observe power dynamics, who leads conversation, who others defer to. Who controls emotional tone? Learn to read microsignals, interruptions, body orientation, tone shifts, energy changes. Awareness gives you advantage. When you understand the emotional temperature of a room, you can shift it. And the man who shifts emotional temperature becomes influential. Here is a quote for you. The man who controls his emotional state controls the room. If someone insults you and you react emotionally, you lose status. If someone challenges you and you remain calm, you gain status. If tension rises and you steady the interaction, people gravitate toward you. Emotional stability is rare, and rarity increases value. Now let's speak about attraction, strategically, not emotionally. Attraction is not won through persuasion. It is triggered through perception of value. Value is communicated through lifestyle, direction, ambition, and boundaries. Boundaries are crucial. A man without boundaries becomes overavailable. Overavailability reduces perceived value. In economics, scarcity increases demand. In relationships, it works similarly. If your time is consumed by purpose, your availability is limited. Limited availability signals importance. But be careful. Scarcity without substance is manipulation. Scarcity with substance is positioning. Substance means you are genuinely building something. Your mission must be real. Your goals must be tangible. Women, and people in general, are drawn to forward motion. If your life lacks momentum, attraction fades. Momentum creates magnetism. Now let's talk about strategic silence. There is power in not explaining yourself excessively. Men who over-explain often seek approval subconsciously. Approval seeking weakens authority. Authority does not beg to be understood. It states and moves forward. If someone disagrees, you evaluate calmly. You do not argue emotionally. Here is another principle. The less reactive you are, the more powerful you appear. Reactivity signals dependence on external validation. Non-reactivity signals internal stability, and stability is foundational to advantage. Now let's pivot to money again. Because status without financial structure collapses. You cannot build sustainable authority while financially unstable. Money provides insulation. Insulation protects decision-making. When bills control you, stress controls you. When stress controls you, behavior shifts. You become irritable, short-tempered, impatient. These traits destroy social advantage. Financial freedom begins with structure. Track every expense. Eliminate waste. Automate investing. Build emergency reserves. 6 months of expenses saved changes your posture. You walk differently knowing survival is secured. From there, invest in appreciating assets, businesses, skills, equity, real estate. Avoid consumer traps disguised as success. Let others rent status. You build it. Now let's discuss competence layering. One skill makes you employable. Multiple complementary skills make you unstoppable. For example, sales plus communication plus financial literacy, fitness plus discipline plus style awareness. Technical skill plus leadership plus strategic thinking. Layering multiplies value. When you are multidimensional, you become harder to replace. Hard to replace men negotiate from strength. Here is a financial principle embedded in male advantage. Increase your replaceability risk awareness. If your employer can replace you easily, your income is capped. If your partner feels you are easily replaceable, your relational leverage weakens. If your network does not depend on your unique value, your influence shrinks. Increase uniqueness. Build rare combinations of skills. Now we must address comfort again. But at a deeper level, comfort breeds softness. Softness breeds hesitation. Hesitation kills opportunity. Opportunities rarely wait. The promotion, the investment window, the introduction, the approach. Hesitation often comes from fear of rejection as information. Information refines strategy. Men who avoid rejection avoid growth. You must increase your rejection tolerance. Talk to strangers. Pitch ideas, ask for raises, set boundaries. Each exposure strengthens you. Courage compounds like money. Now let me share something critical. The male advantage is long-term thinking. Short-term pleasure destroys long-term positioning. Excessive partying, impulse spending. Casual commitments without discernment. These drain energy and focus. Energy is finite. Allocate it strategically. Invest in health, sleep, strength training, cardio, nutrition. Your body is your operating system. Weak system, weak output. Strong system, powerful execution. And execution determines results. Now imagine 10 years of this. 10 years of discipline. 10 years of saving and investing. 10 years of skill stacking. 10 years of emotional control. 10 years of boundary enforcement. You would not need to dominate anyone. You would not need to prove anything. Your advantage would be visible. Visible in your calm, visible in your options, visible in your lifestyle, visible in your network. Let me give you another quote to anchor this. A man who builds quietly eventually moves loudly. Early years may feel slow, but compounding is invisible at first. Then it accelerates, just like money invested early, just like muscle built consistently, just like reputation earned through integrity. Integrity, we must address this. Advantage without integrity collapses. Manipulation might win short term, but reputation spreads. And damaged reputation limits access. Access determines opportunity. Guard your name, deliver on promises. Be punctual, be consistent. Speak truthfully, trust builds social capital. Social capital opens doors money cannot. And when social capital and financial capital combine, leverage multiplies. Now reflect on this question. Are you building temporary attention or permanent value? Temporary attention fades. Permanent value accumulates. The male advantage is not loud. It is layered. It is strategic. It is patient. And it is disciplined. In the next part, we will go deeper into emotional detachment, psychological strength, relationship power dynamics, and how to remain centered in a world designed to distract and destabilize you. We go deeper now, because surface-level discipline is not enough. You can build money, you can build muscle, you can build status, but if your mind is unstable, all of it is fragile. The true male advantage is psychological, and psychology determines everything. Let me tell you something most men discover too late. Attachment without control creates weakness. When your happiness depends on one woman, one job, one deal, one outcome, you surrender leverage. Dependence creates fear. Fear creates compliance. Compliance erodes respect. This is not about detachment from emotion. It is about detachment from outcome. There is a difference. You can care deeply. You can love intensely. You can pursue passionately. But you must never anchor your identity to external validation. Your identity must be self-built. Here is the principle. Outcome independence creates power. Now let's revisit financial independence through psychological strength. Investing requires patience. Patience requires emotional control. Markets fluctuate. Weak investors panic sell. Strong investors assess fundamentals. Emotion-based decisions lose money. Logic-based decisions grow it. Separate ego from outcomes. A bad investment does not define you. A rejected approach does not define you. A failed launch does not define you. Identity must remain stable through volatility. Stability is magnetic. People follow stable leaders. Now here is something deeper. Many men unconsciously chase women to fill a void. That void is purpose, must precede partnership. When your mission excites you, you become less reactive in dating. When your future is compelling, present rejection feels small. Purpose reduces emotional fragility, and fragile men seek control through aggression. Strong men seek control through discipline. There is a difference. Let's talk about time allocation. Time reveals priorities. Track your hours for a week. How much is productive? How much is entertainment? How much is growth? Time wasted daily becomes years lost. Years lost become regret. Regret weakens confidence. Confidence fuels action. Guard your time. Schedule workouts. Schedule skill development. Schedule financial review. Schedule reflection. Structure creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. Identity shapes destiny. Now here's another quote to anchor you. Your life reflects what you tolerate. If you tolerate laziness, you become average. If you tolerate debt, you become stressed. If you tolerate disrespect, you become diminished. Raise tolerance threshold. Expect more from yourself first. Self-respect precedes external respect. Now imagine this. You are financially stable. You are physically strong. You are emotionally controlled. You have clear standards. You have purpose. You walk into any room. No need to dominate. No need to prove. No need to impress. Presence alone communicates value. That is the male advantage. It is built internally long before it appears externally, and the world reacts accordingly. In the next part, we will go into legacy thinking, long-term wealth design, generational mindset, and how to operate strategically over decades instead of weeks. Now we move beyond survival, because survival is basic. Earning enough to pay bills is basic. Attracting attention is basic. Being physically strong is foundational, but still basic. The true male advantage is not built in months. It is engineered over decades. And when you begin thinking in decades instead of days, your decisions change. Your spending changes. Your relationships change. Your priorities shift. Let me ask you something powerful. Are you building for this weekend or for the next 20 years? Most men optimize for short-term dopamine, weekend pleasure, impulse purchases, temporary validation, quick wins. But the men who quietly separate themselves think long-term. They think legacy. Legacy is not about ego. It is about impact. It is about building something that outlives your mood, your impulses, your temporary desires. Let's start with financial architecture. If you want real advantage, you must understand one truth. Income is temporary. Assets are permanent. Income depends on your time and energy. Assets work even when you sleep. Most men focus only on increasing income. Few focus on converting income into assets. This is the mistake. Here's a foundational wealth principle. Earn aggressively, save consistently, invest intelligently. Reinvest relentlessly, and avoid lifestyle inflation. When income rises, expenses should not rise proportionally. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is your power zone. That gap funds investments. That gap builds freedom. That gap creates options. Options are masculine power. When you have options, you are calm. Calm negotiates better. If one stream collapses, others sustain you. This reduces stress. Reduced stress improves decision-making. Better decisions compound wealth. Now think about this. What would your life look like if you had zero financial anxiety? How would you speak? How would you date? How would you negotiate? How would you negotiate? How would you choose opportunities? Financial security transforms psychology. Psychology transforms behavior. Behavior transforms results. This is why wealth and masculinity intersect. Not through materialism, but through independence. Independence is attractive. Independence commands respect. Independence prevents manipulation. Now let's discuss patience in relationships aligned with legacy. Choose partners who support growth. Short-term attraction fades, shared values endure. Does she respect ambition? Does she support discipline? Does she bring stability? Chaos destroys legacy plans. Peace accelerates them. Peace multiplies productivity. Productivity multiplies output. Output multiplies wealth. Wealth managed wisely builds generational change. Now here's another anchor quote. Build a life so structured that freedom becomes the byproduct. Freedom is not randomness. It is structured success. Now imagine this. You are 45, financially stable, debt minimal, assets growing, health strong, reputation solid, family aligned with values. You look back at your 25-year-old self. Was he chasing approval or was he building foundation? Foundation determines ceiling. And you build foundation in silence. Quiet investing, quiet discipline, quiet self-control. Public recognition often comes late, but when it comes, it is backed by substance. Remember this, flash fades, foundation endures. The male advantage over decades is simple. Control your impulses. Invest consistently. Build layered skills. Protect your reputation. Choose wisely. Think long. If you do that, not for weeks, but for years, you will not need to compete loudly. Your results will speak. In the next part, we will go even deeper into advanced positioning, power dynamics and high-level circles, wealth protection, influence expansion, and operating like a strategic architect of your own empire. Now we step into a level most men never reach, not because it is impossible, but because it requires precision. Up until now, we have spoken about discipline, finance, emotional control, and long-term strategy. Now we speak about positioning, because once you have foundation, you must learn placement, and placement determines altitude. Let me ask you something important. Are you building value or are you positioning that value correctly? Many men become skilled. Few become strategically placed. You can be competent and remain underpaid. You can be intelligent and remain overlooked. You can be capable and remain replaceable. Why? Because competence without positioning limits leverage. High-level circles operate differently. At elite levels, business, finance, leadership, perception, and access matter. Access multiplies opportunity. Opportunity multiplies wealth, amplifies influence. But access is earned through proximity and reputation. This is why your network matters more than your follower count. Social media fame is not influence. Real influence is access-aided decision-making. Now here is the truth most avoid. You must intentionally place yourself in rooms where you are the least experienced. Comfort rooms stagnate growth. High-level rooms accelerate it. But entry requires preparation. If you enter high-level circles without value, you become invisible. If you enter with layered skills and calm presence, you become intriguing. Intrigue opens conversation. Conversation opens collaboration. Collaboration opens capital. Now let's talk about strategic alliances. At advanced levels, solo success plateaus. Partnerships accelerate scale. But partnerships require due diligence. Never partner based on charisma alone. Evaluate track record, financial behavior, emotional stability, conflict resolution style. A bad partner can cost you years. Choose slow. Build fast. Here's a core principle of elite advantage. Trust but verify in business, in investments, in relationships. Verification protects assets. Now let's pivot to wealth protection. Accumulating wealth is one skill. Protecting it is another. As income rises, complexity rises. Taxes increase, liabilities increase, exposure increases. You must learn asset protection structures, legal entities, trust, diversified holdings, insurance layers. Most men focus on making money. Few study protecting it. Protection preserves compounding. Compounding is sacred. Never interrupt compounding unnecessarily. Now let's talk about influence expansion. Influence is built through three components. Credibility. Consistency, contribution. Credibility comes from results. Consistency builds trust. Contribution builds loyalty. If you help others rise, they rise with you. But contribution must be strategic. Do not overextend. Protect energy. Energy is capital. High performers guard their energy fiercely. Sleep. Nutrition. Mental clarity. Limited drama. Drama is expensive. High-level men eliminate unnecessary conflict quickly. They do not entertain chaos. They exit environments that drain focus. Here is a quote to remember. Life, it costs your peace. It costs too much. Peace fuels clarity. Clarity improves decisions. Decisions determine trajectory. Now let's examine advanced power dynamics. At higher levels, confrontation is subtle. Challenges are disguised as tests. You will be questioned indirectly. Your ideas will be probed. Your confidence will be measured. Do not overreact. Respond calmly. If you are wrong, adjust without ego. If you are right, defend with logic, not emotion. Emotional spikes reduce perceived authority. Authority at elite levels is measured by steadiness. Now let's revisit money from an advanced lens. Income diversification is mandatory. Active income is vulnerable. Build equity stakes, dividend portfolios, real estate, intellectual assets. Multiple streams create insulation. Insulation creates negotiation power. Never rely on a single source. Dependency reduces bargaining strength. Independence enhances it. Now here is a deeper layer few discuss. As you rise, isolation increases. Not everyone can come with you. Some friends will resist your growth. Some will mock discipline. Some will attempt to pull you back into familiarity. Do not resent them, but do not slow down for them. Growth requires separation at times. Choose alignment over nostalgia. Now let's discuss image versus identity. As success grows, the temptation to perform increases. Luxury displays, status signals, external validation loops. Be careful. Image must never exceed substance. Substance creates sustainability. Image without substance collapses under scrutiny. Maintain humility privately. Confidence publicly. Now let's address wealth psychology at scale. When numbers grow larger, fear grows too. Fear of loss, fear of exposure, fear of reputation damage. Prepare emotionally for scale. Detach from daily fluctuations. Think in long arcs. Protect downside aggressively. Pursue upside intelligently. Risk management separates wealthy from temporarily lucky. Here is a financial freedom principle at elite level. Preserve capital first. Grow capital second. Display capital last. Preservation ensures survival. Growth ensures expansion. Display is optional. Now imagine operating like this. You are financially layered. Your network includes decision makers. Your reputation precedes you. Your emotional reactions are minimal. Your time is structured. Your health is strong. You enter negotiations not to prove yourself, but to assess alignment. You do not chase. You evaluate. Evaluation is power. Chasing is weakness. Now let's talk about legacy influence beyond money. Mentorship. Teaching others compounds impact. When you mentor wisely, you multiply your reach. Your ideas travel further. Your standards propagate. Your name strengthens. But choose mentees carefully. Invest in those who act. Advice given to inactive men wastes time. Time is your most valuable asset. Now consider this. What will your life look like if you sustain this level for 20 years? Networks deepened, assets compounded, reputation solidified, family aligned, health maintained. You will not just have money. You will have authority rooted in discipline, authority rooted in results, authority rooted in calm. That is elite male advantage. In the final part, we will bring everything together: identity, wealth, leadership, legacy, and internal peace, and construct the ultimate blueprint for long-term masculine sovereignty. This is where everything comes together, not the surface level discipline, not just money, not just attraction, not just status, but sovereignty. Because that is what the male advantage ultimately becomes: sovereignty over your life. Let me say something clearly. If you build muscle but lack peace, you are still weak. If you build wealth but lack control, you are still fragile. If you build influence but lack identity, you are still lost. The final level of advantage is internal authority. It is when you no longer need to dominate rooms because your presence is settled. It is when you no longer chase outcomes because you have options. It is when you no longer fear loss because you built resilience. Sovereignty means you own your reactions, you own your schedule, you own your standards, you own your decisions, and ownership changes posture. A sovereign man does not react impulsively. He assesses. He decides deliberately. He moves precisely. Now let's revisit the full architecture we have built. First, self-control. Without it, everything collapses. Control over emotions, control over impulses, control over spending, control over speech. Discipline is freedom in disguise. Most men see discipline as restriction, but discipline creates capacity, creates options. Options create freedom. Second, financial architecture. You learn to earn aggressively, to convert income into assets, to think in decades, to protect capital, to preserve compounding. Let me restate a truth you must never forget. Money amplifies who you are. If you are insecure, wealth magnifies insecurity. If you are disciplined, wealth magnifies power. Build character before scale. Third, positioning. You understood access. You learned to enter rooms prepared. You learned that silence can speak louder than noise. You stopped chasing attention and started building value. Value attracts gravity. People orbit value. Fourth, emotional detachment, not coldness. Control. You stopped anchoring your identity to outcomes. You stopped negotiating desire. You stopped chasing validation. You began filtering instead of proving. Filtering is high status. Proving is low status. Now here is the final layer. Peace. A man without peace will sabotage himself. Internal chaos leaks externally. If you are restless, you overspend. If you are insecure, you overcompensate. If you are lonely in your purpose, you attach prematurely. Peace is clarity. Clarity simplifies decisions. Simplified decisions accelerate progress. Let's talk about solitude. You must be comfortable alone. Not isolated, not antisocial, but internally complete. If you cannot sit alone without distraction, you are dependent on stimulation. Dependency reduces strength. Learn to enjoy your own company. Reflect, plan, evaluate. Reflection refines strategy. Strategy sharpens advantage. Now let's talk about leadership at the sovereign level. Leadership is not control of others. It is control of direction. You must know where you are going. Without direction, discipline becomes random effort. Define your vision clearly. Financial target, lifestyle design, relationship standard, health benchmark. Write them down. Revisit them quarterly. Adjust intelligently. Vision creates alignment. Alignment reduces wasted energy. Now here's a quote to anchor your final level. A man who governs himself requires no external ruler. Self-governance is ultimate power. No addiction controls you. No validation controls you. No debt controls you. No environment controls you. You move because you choose to move, not because you are pressured. Now let's revisit legacy one final time. Legacy is not about monuments. It is about continuity. What continues because you existed? Wealth transferred wisely. Children raised with strength. Businesses that employ others. Ideas that outlive you. Reputation that opens doors for your family. Think generationally. When tempted to overspend, ask, does this build the next decade or just tonight? When tempted to react emotionally, ask, will this strengthen my authority or weaken it? When tempted to tolerate less than your standard, ask, does this align with the man I am becoming? Now visualize yourself 25 years from now. Stable, financially independent, healthy, respected, surrounded by quality, calm. That image is not fantasy. It is math plus discipline plus time. Say, compound discipline for 20 years and results become inevitable. Here is the final financial principle. Freedom is built slowly, then enjoyed suddenly. For years, it feels incremental. Savings grow slowly. Skills sharpen gradually, networks deepen quietly. Then one day, you realize you are not asking for permission. You are not stressed about bills. You are not tolerating disrespect. You are choosing. Choice is sovereignty, and sovereignty is the highest male advantage. But remember this carefully. Arrogance destroys sovereignty. Stay humble. Yes, stay humble. Continue learning. Continue refining. Continue training. The moment you believe you have arrived, you begin declining. Growth must remain constant. Now here is the ultimate synthesis. Control your body, control your money, control your emotions, control your time, control your standards, and release the rest. You cannot control markets fully. You cannot control others' opinions. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control preparation. Preparation reduces fear. Reduced fear increases confidence. Confidence builds calm. Calm strengthens influence. Influence multiplies opportunity. Opportunity grows wealth. Wealth managed wisely sustains freedom. Freedom nurtures peace. Peace reinforces control. And the cycle continues upward. Let me leave you with one final declaration. The male advantage is not about overpowering others. It is about outgrowing the need to. When you build yourself relentlessly, physically, financially, mentally, the world adjusts around you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Build in silence, invest consistently, lead calmly, choose wisely, protect peace. Think long, and over time you will look back and realize something powerful. You did not chase advantage, you constructed it. And once constructed, it cannot be taken. That is sovereignty. That is strength. That is the true male advantage.